Hey everyone, welcome to Limitless Radiocast, episode 22. Stick with us today as we hang out with our friend from Cuyahoga Falls, Ohio. And also, this show is brought to you by Lanky Fight Gear. Looking for great gis, great rash guards, great fight shorts? Go out and check out RollAmongUs.com. Enter Limitless20 at checkout for a discount. Remember, that's RollAmongUs.com, Limitless20. Hey everybody, welcome to the show. Today we're hanging out with Bill Jones, owner, operator, head Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt for top level martial arts in Cuyahoga Falls, Ohio. He is a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt under Pedro Sauer. Hey Bill, thanks for hanging out with us, man. Appreciate it very much.
What's up? Thanks for having me.
And you and Chad know each other, so this is nice.
Yeah, I know Chad for a long time.
Nice.
Yeah, since I was a brown belt. No, I'm just kidding. That was a long time anyway, wasn't it?
Like 12 years, right?
Bill used to not bust my chops, but every time we would see each other, he's like, "Are you still wearing that thing?"
It's funny, Bill. Go ahead.
He was a brown belt. How long were you a brown belt? It was a long time. It was like 7 years or something.
It was pushing 7. It was at least 6.
Yeah, and I know that you were bouncing between instructors or whatever. It's like,
we had some. Yeah,
not like you were being ignored, but like still, it was just funny because it's like we started around. When did you start? I started in 2004.
That's when I started, exactly.
Yeah. And then I got my black belt, and like me and Darren got our black belts around the same time, and I knew we had all started around the same time. And then like 4 years later, he finally made so I was like, what the hell? So
yeah.
The process
all happened how it was supposed to happen, though, right?
Yep.
Yeah, look at you now, man.
Yeah,
getting after it.
Now I've had it for 3 years. 3 years.
Yeah,
3 years flew by. So
yeah,
it's been 3 years already.
How's
crazy.
How's your school doing, Bill? At top level, how you guys doing? Good.
Yeah, doing really well. We opened back up, of course, here in Ohio. Where are you at, Terry? I forget. Are you in Ohio?
Yeah, I'm a student of Chad's.
Oh, okay, cool.
I go to East Coast. I'm East Coast, so
you guys know we all got the chance to open back up last June. So
right.
So it hasn't been as bad for us as some of the guys out on like the West Coast and stuff, or even up in like New York.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like on Instagram, like this past week, you see guys like so excited and rightfully so, but they're like, finally I can get back to training. And I feel so bad for them because I'm like, wow. So when I started, I had 9 classes in. So I'm very young. I'm a white belt, 1 straight white belt. And see how fast I said that? Like I got through that really fast. But the, West Coast, it was, yeah. West Coast, they shut down. And here it was like, oh, we're going to shut down for a couple months. And we kept working through it and kept doing everything and kept training and doing what we could do or being on the mats in some fashion, but seeing those guys now, I'm like, man, I feel bad for those guys. It's crazy. But competitions are opening up. Right. Yeah. They didn't have any choice at all, which is unfortunate, but hey, we're through it now. So now we can just get after it and train and do all that kind of stuff and everything else, stay after
it. With all the restrictions lifting, in Ohio anyway. We had a few holdouts who just kind of wanted to wait until everything was quote done.
Sure.
And, even I think we had lost about 33% of our membership during the shutdown. And then, maybe 10% of that came back right away. And then, of course, a lot of other people joined. And, we're back up to pretty much to our original numbers, about 300 members.
Nice. So, good for you, man.
That's awesome.
That's awesome. Yeah, very cool. Very cool. Bill, do you compete now?
It's funny because I was on a good streak competing right before COVID. And then that happened. And my focus had to shift to just, how am I going to feed my kids? Because this is all I do.
Yeah.
I live by the academy, and so my focus had to shift. But I'm back to getting into training again, and that's what I was doing right before this, our competition class.
Nice.
It was every Monday and Friday night. So I was training right before this, and I want to get back out there. It's just a matter of, one, just kind of convincing myself to do it at 42 years old, and two, getting back into any kind of what I can consider competitive shape.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense.
I've lost some. I'm no one special,
Right. But I mean, getting out there on the mat is like huge.
Yeah,
and
flip that trick too. Teaching as much as you do,
Right. Exactly. 100%.
Yeah. And being able to from when you're teaching, because I have to be able to show you things for your body style. And, there's some systems that go no matter what, but body styles matter too. And so and when I want to compete, I've got to kind of get out of that mindset of doing, kind of everybody's style and saying, okay, well, what's Bill Jones's style? And I got to get into that and just train that and focus on a specific game plan standpoint. That's sometimes a challenging thing to do.
Yeah, no, 100%. You're right on for sure. The, what do you think?
Flip that switch sometimes.
Yeah, that's the thing. I was going to say, it's hard to flip that switch and to transform. Like your mind wants to tell you, I'm the same person I was whenever I first started doing this or competing or whatnot. And it's not. In reality, you're like, wait a minute. I got to change that up. I got to switch and find out where I'm at now, in your training and your transitions, obviously as age goes and, stuff like that, everything, all that changes.
I think a lot for me anyway, I haven't competed since I was a purple belt and I've kind of got the itch a little bit. But I think as much as we teach, it's more of a, we give, right? We're always teaching. And that competition mindset is to be a little selfish. You got to take care of yourself. And like you said, work on what's good for your game, not necessarily your students all the time, or find that balance.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's, I have to almost warn my students sometimes, especially like if they're used to, because I'm a very playful grappler most of the time. People don't expect it from me because, I'm a bigger guy. They expect me to want to crush, but, I'll lay down and just play guard and go inverted and do all that kind of stuff just because I think it's fun, not because I think it's great for my body style or anything. And that's obviously not what I should do if I'm going to compete, and because I'm a, we'll say, heroically sized individual. So in my weight division, going inverted can be, that can spell disaster. Like one guy sprawls on top of that. Now you're just stuck under a 300-pound dude for, 8 minutes or whatever. So I sometimes have to warn them, hey, I'm probably going to come after you here. Nothing against you. It's just, that's what I'm doing because I'm getting ready for my stuff. And they actually like it. My guys, they think it's cool as hell. That's the other thing is your students don't even care if you win or lose. They just love to see you out there playing the game, just basically just like we are with them. I always tell my guys, I'm like, never feel bad losing in front of me. Like the only thing I feel bad is I know how much it sucks to lose. Like it feels shitty. Right. And like, I feel bad for you. I don't feel like you've embarrassed me in any way. It's like, I just know how shitty it feels to lose. And I don't want you to have to feel that.
Yeah, so. That's tough. I had a fairly new white belt, maybe 6 months in. He's going to compete in Toledo. He's 40 years old. He's a dentist, he's a professional guy. And he's like, I just don't want to embarrass the team and embarrass you. I'm like, listen, the only way you would ever embarrass us is if you act like a fool, if you lose, or if you just don't carry yourself the way we should. That's the only thing that I will have a problem with.
Yeah. It's like, I want you to win.
Absolutely.
Not because of me. It's because I know how good it feels to win too.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
Getting that hand raise feels great.
Yeah.
So.
It's huge.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, it's fun. I think everybody should try to compete at every rank if possible. I know some people have whatever reason to not, like I have a couple guys that are CEOs and whatever, and they just cannot risk having a bruise on their face or whatever because they're the face of their company.
Yeah.
And you can't guarantee every competition you go into. Some guy might turn the corner quick and drop his knee on your face. It happens.
That happens. It happens when you first start and you're a white belt and you go to work and everyone, I
get more bruises and injuries from white belts than anybody else.
When I first started, I went to work. Everyone's like, dude, what's wrong? Like, what's going on? Because I work in an office building. I'm a desk jockey. I'm a design engineer, so I draw on the computer all day. I actually work for Bridgestone up in Akron.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So it's kind of funny. Like, people were like, what's going on? And we have a gym, so I'd work out every day in our gym. I always have, but then I'd have bruises all over my body. And then the locker room guys would be like, dude, what are you doing? I'm like, oh, it's the greatest thing on the world. They're like, it doesn't look like it's the greatest. Right. So, but yeah, I get it. CEOs don't do it. I want to compete, but I can't compete in Toledo this year because I'll be on vacation at the beach. I have 3 kids.
That's always happened too, right? Like my instructor calls me, because I was thinking about July, and my instructor calls me and he's like, hey man, we're going to the Outer Banks. I'm taking like 15 guys. We're going to take mats. We're going to do jiu-jitsu on the beach for a week.
Nice.
And it's like, well, do I want to train for this competition, or do I want to do jiu-jitsu on the beach for a week? And we know what the answer there is, right?
Absolutely.
The answer is jiu-jitsu on the beach.
I just met you and I'm going to answer for you. No, I'm just kidding.
And then, the following month, I'm going to Daytona, Florida to kind of do the same thing with the Big Frog. I don't know if you know, I'm shameless plug. My buddy, Jeff Curran, longtime fighter, super history. Just look him up. But he does something called Big Frog's BJJ retreats. He's doing one in Daytona Beach, Florida. If you go to bjjretreats.com, you can get the info on it.
Nice.
But
okay,
it's a great event. I've been there like the last 5 years.
Nice.
And I don't want to miss that either. So to me, like, the summer's almost my off season, even though that's when like worlds and stuff go on.
Sure.
But so maybe if I ramp up and try to do worlds or something, I'll have to change that up. But
what's that retreat like? Do you guys just go out and go hang for like 3-4 days, or?
So yeah, it's like 4 days. There's a hotel generally that they rent out on the beach, and they rent a conference center and throw mats down there. And then generally there's like a morning, a noon, and an evening session.
Nice.
And like he's bringing in David Porter to teach.
Yeah, we know David.
Cole Miller is a UFC fighter.
Yep.
He's teaching. Jeff, of course, teaches a lot of it. Joey Deal, I don't know if you know him. He's a super mobile guy. He's really into mobility, really good at yoga. I think if you look on Instagram, like Real Deal, it's Diehl. I'm sorry if I'm saying that wrong. It's off the top of my head.
It's all right.
But Real Deal Yoga and Real Deal BJJ, he's phenomenal. So he just brings in a bunch of instructors, and nice. Adam Miller Miller's out of Kentucky.
Okay.
So he's going to be teaching there. But he always has these guest instructors, and generally they pick a theme. Like last year it was all like front headlock position, and from a sprawl or a snap down, and then attacking that position. Either to get dominant position or submissions, ideally. So they always have a theme that they all follow, and it all meshes together. So it's a great event. And of course, you go out to dinner every night, and you just have a good time.
Sounds awesome.
Hint, hint. Chad.
Yeah.
Definitely sign up for it, man. It's a great time. If you can afford it, do it.
Yeah.
It can be a challenge. You got to get to Florida. You got to pay for the hotel room. You got to pay for the retreat. It can be expensive, but
for sure,
it's a great time.
It's also something depending on where you are in your state of life and what you're doing, it's not something that you're doing, or maybe you do it and you're like, hey, that was a bucket list because I love doing this, so I did it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then if you are in a place, it's like, hey, I do this every year. It's part of my vacation, like my man vacation, as I like to put it to some people. Like, people are like, what are you talking about? Like, that's when my wife and all my kids stay home and I go do something else.
I mean, the Outer Banks one, I'm taking the wife and kids on that one.
There you go. See,
they can play on the beach while I train.
There you go. Yeah. And the Outer Banks is awesome because the beach is great.
What's not to like about that?
Yeah,
exactly.
Doing jiu-jitsu on the beach. And people that don't know, Bill is a black belt under Pedro Sauer, who he was, talking about going there with, and arguably one of the best instructors in jiu-jitsu history. I mean,
he's amazing.
He's amazing. I did one of his seminars in Youngstown. I don't know, when I was a purple belt, maybe. It was awesome. It was amazing.
Yeah.
This guy's got so much knowledge.
Yeah. And he moves just different than a lot of people. That's the thing. And I think it's because of his size. He just moves different. Not a lot of guys move like him.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm
very, very old school Gracie guy.
For sure. Yeah. Yeah. Terry, if you've never watched it, look up Pedro Sauer versus Bodybuilder. That old school match of his. That dude was huge.
So I think recently people have been reposting this, or like on the
it resurfaces every now and again.
Yeah, like because I've only seen the title. It was like BJJ instructor versus bodybuilder, and it's older because the video kind of grainy a little bit.
Oh yeah.
It's from the early 90s.
Yeah. Okay. I've seen and this has happened over the last couple of weeks, and I haven't clicked on it, but I've seen the title, and I follow so much Jiu-Jitsu stuff on social media. It's all Chad's fault. I blame it, Chad. So
it's addictive.
Oh, it's awesome though. Like for you, when did you start, Bill? Like when you started Jiu-Jitsu, when did you?
Well, I came back so it's a long story. I've been doing martial arts since I was 5 years old. Long time. That was 1984. And we'll fast forward through a lot of that. But in 2003, I was deployed to Iraq for the war. And when I came back, I had been teaching Aiki Jiu-Jitsu, Japanese Jiu-Jitsu, at this karate school. And they wrote me and they said, hey, we got this guy who's doing some sort of wrestling thing. When you come back, you can take over your class again, though. He knows it's only temporary. So I come back and it's this guy. He comes up to me and goes, hey, my name is Tony. I understand you're going to start teaching now. And I said, well, you know what? I've got my black belt on and everything, of course, because I think I'm a badass and whatever.
Sure.
This guy's so nice. And I was like, well, Tony, I've never done this Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Can I just take a class from you and see what it's like? And he's like, yeah, man, no problem. And I was like, okay. So he teaches just a basic half guard pass and an Americana. And I remember thinking, and this is from the perspective of someone who at that time had 20 years of martial arts experience. I was thinking, this is so fucking complicated. There's no way I'm ever going to remember this. Like, how did I get good at this? And, and then at the end, he's like, all right, guys, let's roll, and he comes up and he lets me, he's like, hey, man, we're going to roll. I want to see what you do, and like kind of how you are. And I'm like, oh, okay. And, I do what I think is good rolling. I don't know. And I do the moves that he showed on him. And he was like, all right, cool. He goes, you can roll anybody in here. I'm going to go train with some other guys. And I was like, that guy wasn't that good. Because, I passed his guard and I Americana'd him. I'm like, man, I got him with the moves he showed in class. And this other guy comes up. He's like, hey, man, you want to roll? And he's like 5 foot nothing. Looks like he just crawled out of a garbage can. And, like this long, scraggly hair. And I was like, oh, my God. And at the time, I was small at 220. So, like this guy's maybe 115. I'm probably exaggerating. Anyway, way smaller than me.
Sure. Right.
And I'm like, yeah, sure, man. He's like, you want to start like up or you want to start down? And I'm like, oh, I'm going to throw this bitch. And so I'm like, let's start up. And he's like, okay, when you're done. And he just goes like this to me. He goes, when you're done, just do that, man. And I'm like, whatever, and it was like a bolt of lightning how fast he got on a single leg on me. And I'm on my back and he just scrambles around me real quick and then he arm bars me and I tap. And I was like confused. I'm like, just like everybody, right?
Sure,
let's do it again. Because I think that somehow it's a fluke.
Yep.
Same result, right? Like it just keeps happening. And I'm like, man, why aren't you teaching the class? And he's like, oh man, Tony murders me. What are you talking about? And I was like, I just beat him. And he goes, no, you didn't, bro. And I was like, well, who are you? And he goes, oh, my name is John. And I'm like, okay, John, how long have you been doing this? He goes, well, I used to wrestle with Dan Gable in Iowa. And like, so, and at the time, I don't know what the hell that means, but for anybody who doesn't know what that means, just understand. He's a really good wrestler.
Yeah.
If you don't know
any better than that.
Right. If you don't know, go Google it.
Yeah. Go Google it. Listen to him talk to Joe Rogan and
right.
You'll understand.
It's legit.
Yeah. So, and they're telling me, they're like, oh yeah, John's a real good wrestler. You had no chance of taking him down. And I was like, man, that's crazy. And then I was like, hey, Tony, can I roll you one more time? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, can you not let me do everything? He's like, sure, man. And he beats me so easy. And I was like, all right. And I go home and I call the owner of the school and I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to teach these classes. And then he's like, why not? You know, it's your class. You should take it over. You know, all they're doing is some wrestling stuff. I go, no, there's something to this. I need to know what they're doing. I go, I cannot teach. I go, I couldn't even touch these guys. And like, it was nothing. I go, and I've been training forever. So I need to learn what they're doing. And he's like, oh, I don't know how that's going to go over. And I go, well, that's what needs to happen. I go, so just let Tony keep teaching. And he's like, okay. And I took my black belt off and I come in, I was like, hey man, I don't have a white belt. Can I borrow a white belt from you guys? And he's like, I don't know if we have one, just wear your black belt. And I go, there's no way. I go, there's no way after what you guys did to me yesterday that I'm ever wearing a black belt again until I get it in jiu-jitsu.
Sure.
And he was like, all right, and I got a white belt. That was April of 2004. And
awesome.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, that is so awesome. It's awesome because that's what, Chad and I have talked about this a lot. And we have a lot of these conversations and doing the podcast and guests that we've talked to is that, that's what jiu-jitsu does. Like it's either going to, it humble you, so to speak, to put you in perspective, or you're gone. Like you're just not going to do it. Like you're going to walk away from it. It's the constant thing that we always talk about. Like, is jiu-jitsu for you, or is it not, or is it for everybody, or, that kind of whole thing. And, we don't go back and forth anymore. I think we're pretty much, Chad explains it very, very well. Like, go ahead, Chad, you explain it the way that you see it. Like you feel it.
Well, I've changed over talking to different people through the podcast and stuff. And, I used to say jiu-jitsu is for everyone, or we hear that jiu-jitsu is for everyone. And I think it is, but everyone might not be for jiu-jitsu. That's the way I view it now.
Yeah. And I agree. I think any average person can do jiu-jitsu and get some level of skill. And when I say that, I'm talking like blue belt. Right. I think anybody, if they just train, can get to blue belt. I don't believe that that's true of black belt.
Right.
And some of my guys who are listening, like, what do I mean by that? I mean, you're going to have to sacrifice. I was talking to someone tonight and, it's a lifelong journey, right? Like this is a 10-year chunk of time. That's what, an eighth of your life. If you live 80 years, that's a long time to commit to one thing. Just to earn a belt, right? And a lot of people just don't have the discipline to do that or the desire to even do it. Some of them, and I've talked to them, they'll get to blue belt and they'll write me, they'll be like, I just don't know what my motivation is anymore. And I'm like, I don't know what to tell you, man. Like you either want to do this or you don't.
Right.
Like that's really what it comes down to. I can only motivate you so far. And at some point you're gonna have to do it yourself. It's like working out. It's like,
yeah.
I've always struggled with my weight. Why? Because I struggle with eating right. Like I know exactly why, but when I pick up the donut, it's so fucking good, right? Like so, and so I have to deal with the consequences of that. And it's just, that motivation has to come from within somewhere. And for me, I've been doing martial arts since I was 5. So that part of it has always been easy for me. Like quitting was never a concern, like to the point that I wouldn't take a job if I thought I couldn't train because of that job. Like it's just part of who I am. Yeah. You're not going to take who I am away from me.
Yeah, no, exactly.
And I feel like in your life, take working out again, for example, like if you can't work out, if you're a person who works out, that is so intrinsic to who you are that like your spouse needs to understand that, your kids need to understand that. And it's good for them to see that. Like, I think people make mistakes sometimes of like, oh, I want my kids to know I love them, so I'm going to skip, this for that. And every once in a while, that's great, right? Like they have a dance recital. Sure, go to the fucking dance recital. But like, oh, I want to see every single practice and every single dance. It's like, that's not teaching your kids that you care for them. That's teaching your kids that you have nothing more important to do or nothing important to do other than being a parent. Like, right. So what does that teach them that's important to them, over time? Is it just being a parent? I don't know. Maybe it is. But to me, I think it's important that they see that you have a life outside of them and that, it's important to live your life as well as being a part of theirs. I don't know. That's just how I see it. Like, because that's going to teach them to make themselves happy later, right? It's not somebody else's job to make you happy. It's your own. It's
so awesome that you said that and you stated it that way, Bill, because it's funny. My wife and I, we have these hyper conversations all the time. We're always on the same page, but I have 3 kids and we're always juggling, doing whatever. Chad knows my youngest child. He does jiu-jitsu at East Coast, and he did it because he saw me doing it all the time. He was like, and he knows, like, I'm always at the stuff that I need to be with them, or my wife and I divide it up. Hey, there's something going on. And she knows who I am. Like, I love to work out, or I love to do this. I love to be there. I'm kind of that way. That's just ingrained in me. It's who I am. And so I teach my kids the same exact way that you're stating it. It's like, I will always be there for the most important things, but there are times where it's like, hey, mom's going to be there and dad's not going to be there. Or there's this season in baseball is getting ready to end tomorrow. We have our last baseball game, for instance. I will say, hey, I'm leaving early. Mom's taking you home. I'm going to the gym. And it's not bad, because Archer, my youngest, he'll go, okay, dad, see you later, bud. Or, whatever, like, have a good time. Can I come with you? That's what he says now. I'm like, no, you're playing baseball
later, right? I mean, I feel like that's going to make them healthier later, because they're going to, not only that, they're going to be interested in things because they learn by watching you, right? Like, so if they see that the only thing you're ever interested in is them, I don't know, I feel like that gives them a very self-centered view of the world. And
sure,
what are they going to expect from a spouse later? What are they going to expect from, I just feel like it's going to be hard to be well-adjusted if that's how we do kids.
Right.
Like, do what you want if you're out there. I don't know. Maybe you're wrong, but if you're one of my students, that's just how I feel. I don't know.
Sure. It's making a well-rounded individual, not only focused on one only thing. You're focused on a lot of things because life is hard. Jiu-jitsu, very common ground. Like, when you walk through life is awful and hard. I don't want to say everyone's life's awful, but we walk through a lot of awful stuff, and it's super, super difficult. And we go through a lot of, everyone, our kids or anyone young, they're going to go through trials and tribulations in their entire life. It's going to be very hard. When you go into jiu-jitsu, anyone walking into the gym for your very first time, understand this, it's going to be extremely hard, but everyone around you cares about you being there, and they want you to succeed just as much as your instructor wants you, and your coach, professor, whoever may be. So those kind of things walk together, in my opinion. But then you also, your kids or your family or anything, like, don't just focus on your oneself, like, focus on your whole picture, focus on it all, because then it becomes a better situation. You become more rounded, more cultural in the society, especially in the society that we live in now. And maybe we don't have a lot about that. So I'm on the same page. I know Chad and I have those type of conversations. We agree on a lot of things with that. It's like, hey, I'm going to live. I need to do things. I will always be there and support and do those things and help and do what I need to do. But I will also take care of what I need to do for myself as well. So spot on, brother. It's
funny how, like, people in similar situations, I don't know, maybe we're just an echo chamber, but we all tend to see things similar like that, right?
Have you noticed in jiu-jitsu, just in general, like, it brings that culture of people or that type of people since you've been in it?
Oh yeah. It's a lot of people like that. And I mean, a lot of people like yourself, I can't tell you how many dads have come in bringing their kid in because they heard about it on Joe Rogan or Jocko usually. Sure. And, they're like, if I get my kid into it, then I can do it too. Then, Chad, that happened to you often?
A little bit, not as much. We're still building so we have kids karate as well, which,
oh yeah, I forgot about that.
I say karate. It's not the karate we grew up doing, it's a blend of Brazilian jiu-jitsu, kickboxing, and like Gracie self-defense, like the old school Gracie self-defense. So we have more karate members, youth, than youth jiu-jitsu, but we're trying to build that too. So
yeah, youth jiu-jitsu is tough, I think.
It is. It's really tough.
So like we run it more kind of similar, like more like an MMA program.
Yeah. I
feel like with kids, like, learning how to punch and kick is really powerful for just building things like focus, mm-hmm. and even though grappling's good, I think that's good for building kinesthetic awareness, like, where's my body in space? But, the focus, there's just nothing like saying, hey, hit that letter T on the pad. And they're just like, bam, they just love hitting shit. And I think it's valuable. So yeah, we do a lot of that as well. It's a blend. And I don't know. It's not pure jiu-jitsu, and we have a jiu-jitsu competition team if kids want to join that, but
Right.
it's not like our main focus for them. So we're kind of similar in that way.
Yeah. And it, like you said, it's hard to teach kids jujitsu. I mean, like you said, punching something, you learn to punch when nobody even teach you how to punch. It's something you know how to do.
Yeah,
Just, that
monkey brain stuff.
right.
Yeah. Yeah. You just know how to do it. I taught kids class for the first time in a while the other day, and Terry assisted me, and I'm like, man, I forgot how hard it was to teach a 5-year-old to shrimp crawl or to move their hips. It's like, oh my goodness.
And like the amazing thing about that too. So I was thinking about this, Chad, the other day. So I helped. Chad asked for me to assist, and I was like, sure, yeah, no problem. And my son's in that class too. So my son, and I'll say that everyone, you can laugh right now, get prepared to laugh. My 7-year-old son. So I wear some fight shorts and a rash guard and whatnot, or actually a t-shirt, and I had some spats on. And he was like, we get to the gym, and he was like, Dad, why are you dressed like this? And I was like, well, I'm helping today. He goes, what? And I go, he's 7, mind you, all as I said. He goes, you're a white belt. You're not even a blue belt. And I was like, yeah, it's my 7-year-old. It's awesome. I was like, do I go home now? Do I just tell my coach that coaches me regularly, that asks me to help? Listen, man, my son just ripped me. He's 7 years old. I'm out. I'm done. I'm going home. But it was so cool because Archer, my son, he's been in it for, I don't know. It's like, man, time flies so fast now. I think it's almost 3 months now, or maybe 2 months now. But watching him do certain moves or shrimp, and there was a couple new people that did it in the shrimping. And I was like, man, it is hard to teach them, like, hey, move your hips, put your feet down, push yourself out, or push your arms away from you. And then I'm looking at my 7-year-old, and I'm like, I thought he would never get it. And he's doing it now, like fairly decent for a 7-year-old. And I was like, wow, it is. But their minds are like sponges when they're that young, and they can just absorb it. So once they bit that muscle memory, anyway, that's just my
once they get it, they've always got it. I've got a purple belt now who's 20 years old. He started when he was 9.
Wow.
And he's just going to be such a monster. You know what I mean? Like, his goal is to have black belt before he graduates college.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, so he trains all the time. Such a nice kid too. But like, it's just like, it's funny how, like, once he got through puberty and like, the hormones kicked in and he started to understand his body again, it was just like, boom, he's a killer now. And it's just building all that stuff while they're young. Because like, let's be honest, your son at 7 years old, doesn't matter how good he is at jiu-jitsu. I'm a grown man. I can grab him by the neck, pick him up, and walk away with him. 100%. And that's just the way life is.
Right.
But he does it long enough. Even if he were to quit in, say, 4 years, he's still probably going to be able to choke a motherfucker. You know what I mean?
Right. Right.
Enough to like get away from somebody.
Right. Exactly.
And that's what's very impressive about it. Yeah.
That's what makes it. Yeah. That's what makes it such a great martial art. I've talked about this before, and Chad has encouraged me and given me great inspiration in his teaching and tutelage that I've been under on this aspect of, jiu-jitsu is like a chess match, and, but if you're going against someone that knows no jiu-jitsu, or, I don't care if you know a little bit of street fighting, good for you. But if someone knows a little bit of jiu-jitsu, you're probably screwed. You know what I mean? In the grand scheme of things, because, you're going to become that type of person. You're going to make it close quarters. You're going to do whatever you can because you know what you can do. And, street fighting's different. Yeah, I understand once you get punched in the face, if you don't like it, then you're going to walk away, or, that I always joke. I'm like, yeah, it's all good until someone punches you in the face. But then that also goes back to, is jiu-jitsu for you or is it? Because in my opinion, I'm like, you should be able to get punched in the face and be like, that sucked, but I'm cool. Let's keep going. Let's keep rolling. Let's keep working. Let's keep grinding. But that's also my mental attitude and just the way that I am. But so, I mean, Chad has done that in my small time of being there. Like, he's encouraged that, like, hey, just keep focusing on, the movements or the basics, or, being able to, understand the mechanics of things, and he knows how I work. So when he teaches me, because I'm the guy in the class that asks 100 questions all the time, because I'm old and I'm like, come here, I'm old and I need you to show me this 10 times. And
I wish more people would do that.
But I'm the type of person. Yeah. I'm always like, hey, what about like not the what ifs so much, because I understand it. And early on, Chad's like, look, what ifs are going to happen. It's jiu-jitsu. It's what ifs. But I'm always like, hand here or this close, or do I need it to be here on the stomach, or do I need it to be here on the stomach? You know what I mean? Or side. And sometimes I'll come home and I'll beat my own self up because I'm like, that was dumb. Like, why did you ask something like that? But then at the same time, in the grand scheme of things, and Chad will allude to him because I'm open and honest with him, that no, that's where you want to know. You want to know, hey, the exact location is going to be key to your success later versus being off a little bit, So anyway, that's, jiu-jitsu.
Well, and I think, me knowing Terry now too, he thinks a lot, maybe overthinks, and he's and you're a very ABCD person, right?
I am.
Which I will teach, we all teach ABCD, but it might not come out that way. You might be ACB or,
Right. Exactly. 100%.
You don't know which way it's going to go. So switching your train of thought is.
And that's Bill. That's where I'll be in the middle of my roles. I'll be, I'm flowing along, I'm chaining. And then all of a sudden it's like, crap, I have to jump from, B to E or D. And it's like, my brain is like, hold up. You didn't go in order. And I'm like, this is not good. But hey, not to change the subject, I did want to ask you, or I want to say this first and foremost. Thank you for your service. Thank you.
Oh, no problem.
Yeah, appreciate it very much, man. Every member, everyone it serves is important an aspect. Did martial arts encourage you to go, or did you decide that you wanted to do it?
So my dad served 3 tours in Vietnam.
Oh, okay.
And never wanted to ever talk about it. And that kind of was and I don't know, I just always had an interest in military type stuff.
Yeah.
And then my dad died when I was 18.
Whew.
And like I said, I never got to talk to him about it. I never got to do anything. And I wanted to have some level of experience with what he had experienced. And I do now.
Yeah,
and,
sure.
That's okay. I'm very fortunate in that my military, my wartime experience was relatively mundane. I wasn't having to kick down doors. I was no Jocko Willink. I wasn't a Navy SEAL. I was just a fuel supplier. They would try to mortar us a few times, a couple pop shots, things like that. But I wasn't in the shit, so to speak.
Sure.
But I got enough of a taste.
Sure. Don't sell yourself short, man. Don't ever sell yourself short for serving in the, any armed force that there is. I know it's different. And I tell people all the time this, don't discount it, and don't let other people discount it for you, because you can, because you're allowed. It's you. You did it, man.
It's pretty natural for us. You
right.
know what I mean?
Right.
One of my therapists said that that's a defense mechanism.
It is. Yeah.
Her thing was, it's like, how was your experience? And I was like, well, we got, mortared and a couple guys got shot at and stuff like that. And she's like, well, how'd you feel about that? I'm like, whatever. It's whatever, and she's like, that should be scary. And I'm like, well, I don't know what to tell you. So apparently those are defense mechanisms in your brain. But I look at it as like, for example, you guys talked to David Porter, right?
Yeah.
And, he was a Marine, and
yep.
I'm not going to tell his stories for him, but he's seen some action,
He's seen some action. Yeah.
It's hard for me. You almost get, what is that? Like an imposter syndrome. You know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah.
So that I think it's hard for every level to do that. And it's like, I think you could even be a Navy SEAL and do that and be like, yeah, I was a SEAL, but I didn't have like every member of my platoon die, like I think it's just a natural thing that we do.
Sure. 100%. But it's, in military is obviously way different than jiu-jitsu. You're safe and all that stuff for the most part. And this, you're getting choked like every single time, but but there is some resemblance in terms of that, like being humble. Like you're being humble, Bill. Like that. Like you're being humble because that's who you are. And you did your time. You went in. You did all that, which is awesome. And when guys step on the mat, it's the same thing. Like I'm humble. Guys are other, Chad's humble, whatever, whoever we deal with, whoever's there at your gym at top level, the kids or the young guys that come in, like the kids that stay, they're humble in that working ethic. And it's like, I don't want and there are people, I understand there are people who are like, hey, when am I getting ranked? When am I getting ranked? When am I getting ranked? You know what I mean? But for the majority of the part, it's like, no one cares because it's their own journey. It's just, I know that person cares about me, but in my well-being, and they want me to succeed, and I want them to succeed. And if they get promoted, that's awesome. And I'll get promoted when I get there because this is my journey and that's your journey, and it's kind of the same thing. Like not in seeing things, but in terms of like, when you go to the military, that's your journey. Your journey going to military is that. It's not, what someone else did or whatever. And everyone is like, look, I don't care. There are guys that are super excited and happy to, do all that stuff and getting ranked and whatever. And for me personally, it's like, I want to, sure, but it's not like at the top of my list. It's not, I don't walk into that gym every single day thinking, is this the day? I walk in and think, what can I learn today? How much better can I be? And I like to think that's what jiu-jitsu does to everybody who stays, who wants to do it. They want to grind. They want to fight in the dark place. You know what I mean?
At some point that has to be it. You know what I mean? Because Chad can tell you, I can tell you, at black belt, like we're until you're going to coral belt, where the hell else are you going? You get a stripe every 3 years. It's like,
right.
It's like, well, there you go. So like the only thing left is just accepting that your only goal is to try to get better. That's it. And that's one of the humbling parts of jiu-jitsu.
Sure.
Is just, or that you just have to accept. Like that's the only goal. And maybe that's how I should tell people about it when they ask me, well, why am I training? To get better. That's it. That's it. Because you're going to experience. How long you been training now, Terry?
I started in February
of 2020.
Of 2020. Yeah. February 10th. February 10th was my very first day of last year.
So,
yeah.
I mean, now, did you ever like wrestle around with your buddies, before this? Like,
I wrestled in school. So I wrestled for a few years in school. I did a lot of martial arts when I was younger. And so that kind of discipline and that stuff was there. For me, when I went into jiu-jitsu, it was, my wife was like, why do you want to do this? And we have a great relationship and obviously we're married, but, and I was like, I want to test me. Like, I want to know who I am. I want to know what Terry is, who Terry is. And I've known that, but I just turned 44 in May. So it was more that, like, I love to work out all the time. I'm a super calm, relaxed person, but I'm also very brash and aggressive if I have to be. That's who I am, but it's the way I grew up. It's kind of the material or anything I've been around. I grew up rough and stuff like that, rough neighborhoods when I was super young. So, for that part of it, yeah, that was me. That's what made me want to do jiu-jitsu, because I knew about the art and I loved the context of the art. And it was like, okay, I've never done this. This is something I want to do. And obviously when I walked in, I got welcomed with open arms. A lot of great people there. Fortunately, I was able to see someone that I knew that didn't remember me, but then when I did mention it to him, he was like, "Oh," and he took me under his wing. Tim Parsons, and Chad's known Tim for a super long time. I owe a lot to him in terms of keeping me there in the very, very beginning, because the encouragement and stuff like that, which doesn't happen at every gym. But long story short, I mean, that's why I did it. That's why I got into it.
Well, here's why I bring that up is like, a lot of men, and I don't know how women do things. I can only speak from a dude's perspective, but, like we wrestle around with our friends, whatever, you're having fun, you're watching UFC, you get rowdy, right?
Sure.
How long does it take before they decide, you're doing jiu-jitsu, before they decide they don't want to wrestle with you anymore? You know what I mean? Like 3 months, 6 months, and they're like, wow, this guy's immortal. You know what I mean? And that's as a white belt, and it's real easy to let that mindset get to you and be like, well, I can kind of beat up everybody I know. What's the point anymore? You know, like, or at least all the average dudes, you know.
Yeah.
And at some point, it's got to be that you want to get better. Now it's like, well, I don't want to beat up average dudes. I want to beat up other white belts. And then eventually it's like, well, I want to be able to beat other blue belts and purple and brown and so forth and so on. You know, and then at some point you have to accept that you're not going to beat everybody. That's hard.
Yeah, sure. I'm sure that is, and especially if you as you get ranked and you get knowledge and you have a lot of years in, I'm sure that's difficult. Obviously I'm not there, you know, but, and I have that mindset of what you just alluded to, Bill, is that, you know, at first, like I said, I wanted to know who I was, what I can do, how strong am I, how good am I, how much can I move still at this age? But then it was like, ooh, how much can I know? How good can I be? You know, and so that's kind of how I look at it now. Like, can I be that good? Can I, you know, Chad will send me videos or I'll watch stuff, or we watch Who's Number One or whatever. Not that I'll never be that good, but just to put that out there. But you know what I mean? Like, I'll watch jiu-jitsu and I'm like, I wonder if I can do that someday. Like, that's how I look at things. Like, hey, can I do 1,000 pull-ups? Sure you can, but you better work. You better put the work in, man. You know, so I agree with you. Like, that's how, yeah, you wrestle around with your buddies, even wrestle around with yourself mentally, you know.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, funny.
So let me ask you this. What does jiu-jitsu mean to you?
You know, people ask that. I wish I could tell you something profound.
Yeah.
The greatest answers are not profound.
You know, martial arts has been a constant in my life since I was 5. You know, basically before I could read, I was doing martial arts. And that's why I said, like, the thought of quitting, and that was never even in my, like, I remember talking to other guys who'd be like, oh, you know, hopefully I can make it 10 years so I can earn my black belt. And in my mind, I'm thinking, well, what could possibly happen to not, you know? And I've asked myself, I'm like, why is that? Why is this so important to me? And I don't know if it's some monkey brain shit about, you know, wanting to be able to defend myself. You know, like I really don't have a good answer to that, but I do know that the things I've learned, and I would say especially in jiu-jitsu, and I don't know if it's because I came into it in very formative years of my life, or if it's because jiu-jitsu is unique in this way, but it's calmed me down. I used to be almost bipolar, and actually most of my family has been diagnosed as bipolar. So there's the possibility that I am. But it's allowed me to step back and just say, you know, is this something I need to get upset about? Is this something I need to argue about? Or am I just wasting energy here?
Sure.
You know, it's kind of like when I take a grip on someone's gi, right? Like, and they want to get their grip back. And it's like, do I want to let them circle, wrap up my fingers, and now I've got it, and then they've got it? Or do I just go, oh, okay, you can have it back. And then I just put my foot up and they grab my foot and I bring my foot to me and I get my grip back again. And it's like, that was a lot easier than fighting over it. And then I pointed out to them, I'm like, see, I'll get it back. And they're like, fuck you. And it's like, I think they don't even realize. They just handed me, they just worked so hard to get rid of this grip, you know, because they're like, pull, you know, like they're starting a lawnmower. And I'm like, okay, you know, and then like just one little move and then whoop, here it is. Thanks for giving it back to me. You know, like now we'll sweep. You know, and that's sometimes the way you got to handle life, you know, like it's, you know, you gotta give to get. and I think that's probably one of the most important parts of jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, 100%. No, you're right, Bill, 100%. And you balance, and Chad's heard me say this term before, and I tell us, it's kind of like a term that I do all the time or say is what serves purpose. So what you're doing is, does it serve a purpose or does it not serve a purpose? So if that thing doesn't serve a purpose, then it's like, why do it? Or why put any effort into it? You know, it's like, hey, I'm not keeping this grip because it doesn't serve a purpose. I'm going to make it serve a purpose by letting go, making the move, bringing my foot back to me and getting the grip again. It's like, see, that served a purpose. What I was doing before didn't. It's the same thing in life. Like what you're doing, you know, like anyone, it's like, I tell people all the time, I'm like, does that instant thing that you're doing in your life serve a purpose for you, the people around you, or your long-term trajectory? You know, Jiu-Jitsu is kind of like that, at least. And that's, I started
like the
doing
donut.
that.
The donut doesn't serve a purpose.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
that's instant gratification, right?
And it tastes really good. And it's funny that you brought up David Porter. It's funny you brought up David Porter. So he was supposed, because it was like National Donut Day or something.
Oh, yeah, he loves donuts.
He was posting like this giant donut, and he was eating this giant donut. And I'm like, I saw the picture on Facebook, and I was like, come on, David. I'm like, so I'm in a transition. I'm not allowed to eat sugar anymore. I just found out that I'm basically a diabetic, and I don't have to take insulin yet, but I'm right there. So yeah, it runs in my family. Yeah, it runs in my family. It's something that it was just slowly creeping up, and my A1C came back really bad. And she was like, look, you can't do this and this and this. And, you know, just keep working out, keep doing what you're doing. I was like, awesome. So they get whatever. I'm not a candy guy. I like pastries. So David was posting that picture of giant donut, and I was like, awesome. It just happens to be great. It's like, I can't eat the donut anymore. I want the donut. But anyway, that's for another day and another story. Just keep working, right? Keep showing up at the gym every single day, you know, keep working hard and training and grinding in the dark, as I like to say.
How long have you been doing engineering?
This will be my 19th year.
Oh, wow. What kind of engineer are you?
Yeah, design engineer. I draw all day on the computer, 3D modeling and stuff like that. So
I did verification validation for a long time.
Oh, well, yeah.
For several years anyway. For Philips Healthcare.
Okay.
That's the job I quit to just teach jiu-jitsu.
What is it with you guys? Like you guys, Chad's the same way. He quit something else to do jiu-jitsu and take care, you know, run a gym and do all that kind of stuff. It's awesome. Like I love it, because I tell people all the time, if you wake up every single day of your life and you don't love what you do, then you need to quit. I don't care how much money you're making. Go do what you love to do, because you will spend your entire life hating everything.
It was definitely a pay cut.
Oh yeah, I'm sure, for
a Fortune 500 company, and I'll never forget all the exit interviews. Because it was a good company, but they're like, why are you quitting or whatever? What's going on?
Sure.
Basically, they're making sure you weren't sexually harassed or something, right?
Right. You're gonna sue
I'm like, I'm going to open up I have a jiu-jitsu school. I'm just going to do that full time, and they're all just like, you have balls of solid steel. Who does that? Like, you have like great benefits. You got all this stuff, and I was like, I don't really think it takes that much courage. For me, it was a no-brainer.
You wouldn't turn the clock back now, right? Like where you love it. You wouldn't turn.
I wouldn't change anything. And I get to hire my friends. I get to, got 7 guys working with me. I like to say working with me because they all have other things they do. So I don't like to say working for me. But
right.
It's a great team of people. They teach most of the kids' classes, and some of my guys teach the adult classes with me, and it's afforded me a lot of freedom at the cost of money.
Sure, right.
A lot of money and have no time, or you can have a lot of time and no money, and I'd rather have the time. So that's what I do. I love it. I wouldn't change it.
How long have you had your school?
I opened it initially. It was in Ravenna under the name Portage County Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in 2010.
Oh wow. Okay.
We moved a couple times from there because it was in someone's Taekwondo school. And then we moved to a CrossFit location out in Kent. And eventually one of my students at the time named Don Powell, he said, hey, I have I own a building in Cuyahoga Falls. What do you think of that? And it was real hard to grow in the CrossFit location. Nothing against those guys. It's just like people don't walk into CrossFit to learn jiu-jitsu. They walk into CrossFit to do CrossFit. and just the way it is. So I was like, you know what? Let's do it. And we moved out there into this it was like a 700 square foot room. That's it. So we put as much mat space as we could in there, and there weren't even chairs for people to sit in. It was just like, walk in, there's mats. Parents would sit on the floor, and it smelled like shit. And so eventually it was raining, and it would rain into the building. It was awful.
Wow.
But it was mine. Right. And so Then we moved to, across the way and got what I would consider our first like real location. And that was in 2012. In 2014, my mom died. And that was kind of the catalyst to say life is just too damn short. And I was like, I'm done. I'm doing it my way from now on.
Sure.
So that's what I did. And since 2014, this is all I've done.
Nice.
It's awesome.
It's awesome. Yeah. Good for you, man. I mean,
Thanks.
I mean, that's good on you because you followed your passion and the events happen and I'm sorry that those happened, but I'm glad to hear and see that you are doing what you're doing now. It's one more location to teach into, what is Bill Jones' legacy? What do you want it to be?
Well, it's funny that you say that. I'm going to go backwards a little bit. So when I worked at the place that I worked where I was doing engineering, it was FDA regulated location. So it's under heavy FDA scrutiny, and the managers, God bless them, they would make all these like motivational posters. You ever see the motivational poster?
Oh yeah.
Like, a lady staring at the sunset and it has, like some sort of inspirational quote. And one of they were making those, but they were making them internally. And one of them said, documentation is your legacy. Make sure you get it right. And man, your question couldn't be more appropriate for that, because the only thing I could think of is a tombstone with my name on it. And it said, here lies Bill Jones. He dotted his I's and crossed his T's. And I was like, fuck no. Documentation will not be my legacy. So what will be my legacy? I don't know. I want to be known. I don't know. In the end, none of us get remembered. There are very few, and like, I'm not going to be in anybody's history book. After my kids are gone, I'm probably not going to be remembered at all. Right. So I'm not so much concerned about my legacy as much as how people see me now. And I just want them to know that, hey, there's that Bill Jones guy. He's super nice to everybody that he meets. And he runs a good jiu-jitsu program. That's really all I care about, and so far I'm doing pretty good at that.
Yeah.
I feel like that's how most people describe me.
Yeah. You're there, bud. You're definitely there.
That's what I would say. Like, just meeting you tonight or in this moment. So look at it like this, Bill. Yes, when your kids, like if it ends there, that wall comes down, no one remembers your name past that point. But that's not true, because I've told Chad this. I'll tell you the same exact thing. There are people that have come in there. You're never going to forget Pedro Sauer. Okay.
True.
Never. No matter what, his legacy is going to live on forever because of people that he touched. It's not just the knowledge that he gave to them. So Chad's in the same boat in terms of everyone that's touched him. And Steve Heineman was someone that took him under his wing and taught him everything. And that name's never going to end. Your name's not going to end. Chen Kuhn's name's not ever going to end, because they're going to be people like me, or obviously younger than me, because I'm pretty close in age. So I'll probably die before him. But no, I'm just kidding. But I'm just kidding. But there are students that come into your school all the time, man, and they're going to be on podcast in 10 years from now, and they're going to get their black belt from Bill Jones, and they're going to say, yeah, my professor Bill Jones did this, and this, and this, and this. And people are going to go, oh man, who's Bill Jones? And they're going to look at it. I'm not saying like, hey, that's the all be all end all, but don't sell yourself short. Like I said earlier on other things, is that's the legacy of what you guys do. That's what you give to people. You give people this difference in life. You train people to understand jiu-jitsu and to learn jiu-jitsu, and it's not something to take for granted. It's a life lesson. So it's something you pass on. It's no different than sending a child to school to learn a math problem. That math problem goes on forever. Or a teacher that it touches someone's heart in school. They read great. They couldn't read before. This teacher took them under their wing. Now they can read. And years later, they're like, Mrs. So-and-so really taught me. Well, you guys care about your students enough to teach them. So that's going to be like what you say. So that's going to be your thing, man. Like that's the legacy of top level Brazilian jiu-jitsu that Bill Jones has taught to everybody. Not that I'm putting words in your mouth or anything, but just, I don't want you to sell yourself short, you know?
Yeah. I don't know. I think maybe jiu-jitsu makes us, you know, Chad, I'm sure Chad's the same way. You know, we meet so many guys that are so very good. It's hard. I think it's hard sometimes to recognize that, like, to somebody, you're that good too. You know what I mean? Like,
Sure.
For sure. Yeah.
I have a saying, I have I guess it's 5 levels, the 5 dreams of jiu-jitsu. And the first few it's like a funny thing I'll say. The first one is the white belt dream. And that's when you think you're on your side, but you're really still laying on your back. And I'm sure Chad has seen that all the time. It's like, no, get on your side. And like the person just like moves their hips, but their back is still on the ground.
Right.
You're like, no, all the way on your side. The blue belt dream is thinking that you're going to move real well with your feet still in the air. You know, so it, like, they'll like throw their bodies around. And it's like, no, just put your foot on the ground and like fucking shrimp, dude. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
The purple belt dream is that you don't need to come to warm-ups. The brown belt dream is that you are already a black belt. And the black belt dream is that you wish it was as easy as people say you make it look. Like,
Those are pretty good.
Not that easy, I swear.
Yeah.
So
that,
you know, and you're always running into somebody who makes it look easier than you do. And so it's hard to see yourself as a legacy sometimes, but I definitely understand and respect what you're saying.
Yeah. And I think because the jiu-jitsu community is still, I don't know how to say this right. It's still considered small. We've talked about that.
Sure.
It's small. So all the guys who have done a ton and they're on top level, they know what it's like because they've come through it. So they look at someone that walk through the fire, so to speak, because that's what you do. You do it for years. And like you said, a lot of guys can't grind it. They can't grind that time. They can't do it. It's just mentally, it's too hard. Or you get to a point and you're like, I can't do this anymore. Or why am I training anymore? But you have to be willing to walk through the valley of fire and death and all the suck. You got to walk through the suck. You have to. And it doesn't mean you suck at it. It just means you have to painfully go through it. So those guys too know that. So they're going to I want to believe, and maybe this is just naive on my part, is that I want to believe that everyone that's ever done this looks at guys that are coming up or still do this or teach, go, they did it, man. They did it. So their legacy is giving it to those people because we want people to understand this great art, you know, in a whole grand scheme of things.
Yeah.
You know, and I imagine being where you guys are, that it is hard. It's hard to say that because I'm a humble person in general, and it's made me humble even more doing it now, even, you know, a year and a half in. You know, it's like I was already humble, but now I'm really humble because I know what it takes to be here. I know what it takes to step on that mat. I know what it takes to get beat up by somebody, so to speak, you know, or get put in bad positions or whatever. So it's like, yeah, I can see that. Like, it's not in your nature or my nature or anyone who sticks with jiu-jitsu to be like, yeah, I want this and this and this and this and this to be, you know, plaqued on a wall. So when I walk in, people are like, there's that guy. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I understand that. I respect that part of how, you know, and you're no different than anyone else I've asked that question to. I ask that question to everybody. It's like because I'm so new in jiu-jitsu, I like to know what people who have done it for a very long time want out of that end game, you know, not just for themselves, but just for other people. So that's why I asked, not to put you on the spot, because Bill, that's what I tried to do, is put you on the spot.
I really should come up with a better answer because a lot of people ask that, but you know, that's the truth.
The answer is what you said, is putting on a t-shirt. The white belt, the blue
5,
belt. Yeah, the 5. Yeah. No, that's a t-shirt, sellable.
Yeah.
And people would buy that. Because
I'll tell my artist to get on it.
Because every time you see like memes or you see stuff, that's all you ever see. Someone on the groups on, you know, social media, got my purple belt today. Guess I don't have to show up for warm-ups anymore. Yeah. Got my brown belt. Guess I'm good to go. It looks like it's almost black. I'm like, I don't know if I can do that. I'm like, hey, what more can I know now? But that's me, and I get everybody's different, whatever. But anyway, that's awesome. Like, I love that.
It's part of the learning process too, right? Like, it's hard from the perspective of a white belt to understand, because like as a purple belt, you know a lot of jiu-jitsu. You're legitimately good at jiu-jitsu, right? Especially compared to like how many purple belts do you really feel you do anything to, right?
Me,
you probably
none.
get your ass kicked by, right? Like, yeah.
I'm asking them to teach me every time we roll.
And so they're in that spot where they're legitimately dangerous human beings, right? Like, so
Sure.
like a good purple belt, or I would say just an average purple belt, to me, like if I get in their game, if I let's say they have a really good guard play, it's real easy for them to maybe get me if I let them start playing their game, because they've got a black belt guard, or let's say a black belt triangle.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like that's generally what I notice. So like they're having a lot of successes. That's the first time that you're not really getting your ass kicked as much as you used to.
Sure.
And so it's easy for them to start slacking a little bit and get what I love to call purple beltitis. That's when they want to just lay down on the mat and like just watch everything, like maybe drill the move twice or whatever. It's like real easy. And then they get over it. Like as they get closer to brown belt, they start training hard again. But it's funny, like every purple belt I know goes through that phase where they're kind of a know-it-all. It's kind of like being a teen, like I get that you're a senior in high school, but you still don't understand physics. Like
you still have to do the work, dummy. Like, what are you doing? And then you have some.
They hit a plateau again,
right?
And then they're like, "Oh shit, how do I get better?" And it's like, "Oh, are you ready now? Are you ready to ask questions again?" Like, let's do it. So it's
an enigma. I guess there's You have the other side, like, and maybe in Klingerman. James Klingerman, you know who James Klingerman is. Maybe he's a little different. So we did a seminar. He came down. Obviously, we're affiliate of James. East Coast is, and so he turned around and he was like, Terry, like, and so we trained together that class or that seminar. So I got 2 in 1. I will always. It's a great memory because I will always remember that forever. But he was like,
you find a black belt boyfriend during a seminar.
The first thing he says to me, he goes, I love to drill. I was like, awesome. So it was nonstop, like go. He's like, go again. And I was like, okay, cool. There's no like chit-chatting, nothing. It's like, just keep going. So it was awesome.
Yeah, it's funny.
Very good.
I'm the same way. I really enjoy drilling. And we had Neto Gomez used to be in the area. He's kind of out in, I think, California now, but
okay.
He came in and did a seminar for us, and I grabbed one of our, she was a blue belt at the time. She's a purple belt now, but, and I'm like, come on, Cindy, you can drill with me. And she's like sweating her ass off. And she's like, I've never trained this hard in my life. And I'm like, well, welcome to training with me. When I train, this is what I do. I don't stop. I want to get it right.
That's awesome, man.
It's like that, but I mean, that mentality is why I wear a black belt, right? I mean, that taking it seriously every rep.
And you guys can correct me because I don't know 100%, but it's like, is the 1% legit? The 1% of people that start jiu-jitsu are just become black belts because of reasons like that, because of grinding and pushing and being a brown belt until it turns white, and Chad's case. And I'm just busting his chops.
I feel like once that happens, you have no reason to go. Like, you can't quit then.
Oh,
right?
he
could have claimed it was any color he wanted by the time it was done. He could have been like, "Oh no, this is a black belt. I've just had it a long time."
Right.
I've had it, yeah.
It's in shreds.
Yeah. Well, everyone that rolls with him ever at the gym is always like, I don't know this wizardry that he pulled, but he did this and this. And I'm like, dude, don't explain it to me. I'm like, I don't know what he's doing.
Like, I'm not going to know what that is.
Right. I'm like, look, I'm still trying to just figure out leg weave, X pass, drag, this, that, whatever. Like, I get all that. You start talking this, I roll with him, I'm always like very cautious. I'm very cautious. Why are you going so slow? I'm like, listen, man. Or someone will be like, you and Chad were rolling, you were just like going real slow. I'm like, I'm not dumb. I'm old and wise, just not jujitsu wise yet.
So so one of my favorite stories about my old raggedy brown belt is Bill, our friend Kobe. Kobe, I don't know. Terry probably never got to meet Kobe. He passed away earlier this year, right?
Yes. Yeah. I know who you're speaking of.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So he came down for a Sunday open mat. I was still a brown belt, and he was like watching on the side. And then we rolled, and he thought I was like a white belt. He couldn't tell what my belt was until we rolled. He's like, hold up, what belt are you? So it just became a joke with me and him. He would always comment on my legendary brown belt, he called it. So
that man knew how to make everybody special.
He did. He absolutely did. Yeah. Yeah. So
yeah, I've chatted some great stories about him, and really good dude, man. Sorry he went. Let he win, man. That's big loss. But so
life happens, unfortunately.
Yeah, unfortunately it does, man. We live and we die and walk that path of life and do the best that we can for everybody, for ourselves and everybody around us. So
awesome. I got a quick story. I don't know, story. Just about, I want to talk about Bill's character. So,
okay.
Joe, no, just something we're all on social media. We see things, different pages like, hey, I'm going to be in Ohio. Where do I train? Everybody wants us to train with us, right? You want people to come to your school. You want new students, all that. And I've seen Bill very many times say, hey, where are you going to be? If you're here, go to this school because it's closer. If you're here, you know what? You're always welcome at my school. But I think that's huge to say with your character, sending people to other places, not just your own.
Yeah, I just want people to train.
Right.
And like realistically, let's say they're in camp.
Mm-hmm.
And you're there, Joe Hill's there.
Right.
I'm not sure who else is down there. There's probably other people, but like if they contact me and they're like, oh no, someone said train with Bill Jones, then whatever. But like realistically, are they going to drive, in Canton traffic all the way up to Cuyahoga Falls, all the way up Route 8 and 76 and all that bullshit every day and keep doing it? And the answer is probably no.
Right.
They're going to quit. And it's like, well, just go to the place that's convenient because that's what you're more likely to stick with. And you're still going to get jujitsu.
Mm-hmm.
I want people to legitimately get everything they can out of it. And some people are willing to make that drive and some aren't. And I would say the vast majority are not. It's a rare person who, for whatever reason, their buddy trains here or something like that. That's different. But like, I'd rather just know that a year from now, 2 years from now or whatever, they got everything they can out of it as opposed to like trying it for 6 months and then quitting.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. That makes sense, man. And again, it goes back to building that, you're humble and it's about getting people to know this art. And, Bill, you and Chad have a relationship in terms of you've known each other for a long time and through jujitsu. And so it's like, hey, go train at East Coast because you're closer. Or Chad's like, hey, go train at top level because you're closer. You're here. You can get there every day in a certain amount of time, so on and so forth. So that's awesome. And in my short time, like hearing people and doing this podcast is that's what people have spoken of that community. People are willing to help each other out. Like people come on this podcast, like, yeah, we're so many shows in and it's like, no, let me come on and talk about jiu-jitsu because that's what we want to do. We want to get the knowledge and the word out there. And like I said, the legacy, and we want people to talk about what they want others to get out of doing this art, so.
From like a business perspective, Pedro Sauer and I, anytime he's in town, I try to get together with him just, offline as much as possible. We'll have lunch and dinner together and stuff like that. When I was first opening up, he said, hey, you know what success in jiu-jitsu is? And I went, no, what do you think it is? He said, well, what do you think would happen if you went into, say, we were right in Boardman, so we were right by the mall there. And, He's like, if we went into that mall and picked out any 10 people and said, hey, what's that thing where like people put on those funny pajamas and they have like colored belts? He goes, how many of them you think are going to say jiu-jitsu? And I said, well, probably none. They're all going to say like it's karate or something, unless they just happen to train something. And he goes, yeah. He goes, when you can ask that question randomly and everybody says jiu-jitsu, he goes, that's when you've succeeded. He goes, that's when you know it's gotten somewhere. And I take that to heart, you know, like, because like I stopped training other martial arts because of this. You know, I took off black belts and you know, like a friend of mine, Jason Anderson, he's literally a block away from me. You know, he runs a jiu-jitsu school under Carlos Machado. Awesome dude. I love him. And like, there's no shortage of people, you know, in Cuyahoga Falls, there's 500,000 people. I don't have room to train them all, you know? So like,
sure,
I'm okay sharing them, you know, like I don't mind, you know, it's not, obviously I need to make money. I need to survive and everything, but like, I don't feel like fighting over every single human being that's out there is the way to do that. At least not in jiu-jitsu. From a business standpoint, you know, if all businesses within the United States alone were sitting on all business styles, we're sitting on a football field, you know, the niche of jiu-jitsu wouldn't even get off the goal line.
Right.
That's how small of a business it is, right?
Yeah.
So like, it's not like we're Amazon trying to take over the entire retail market here.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I would just rather do right by people and let that speak for itself.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. That's the way to do it, man.
Yeah.
Something we got to change this year, Bill. We've never trained together, so we got to make that happen.
I got to get down there.
We'll figure out something open, Matt. Maybe you come down and teach sometime. I'll come up and teach, you know, your place. Like,
yeah, same thing. I was talking to Jason about the same thing. Like we always say we're going to do it. And then you know how it is. You get busy.
Yeah. You never do it.
COVID hits and
yeah,
it's like
COVID wrecked a lot.
Yeah.
That was, 9 classes. And it was like, hey, we're closing down. And I was like, okay.
Good on you for not.
I don't know what I did.
You know, it's easy to give up.
I'm like I said before, I'm a grinder, even at my age. Like, it's just kind of like, it's kind of who I am. You know, I want to work. Like, I want to be better at things. And it has a lot to do with the way I grew up, just, you know, being told different things. So it was like, nah, I'm gonna prove you wrong. Like, I'm gonna work. And no one's ever told me you're not gonna be good at jiu-jitsu or nothing. Like, it's the totally opposite. Everyone's, you know, Chad is probably my, you know, lack of better word, biggest cheerleader of like, look, you're good. You're going to be good. Even when I say I suck, he's like, you're good. Because I've said many times, I suck at this, you know, just defeated, mentally defeated and stuff like that. And he's never let me, you know, waver in anything.
Actually, what I tell him, Bill, is you should suck a little bit. You're a one stripe white belt. You're not supposed to be.
Dang it. I wasn't going to tell Bill that. I was going to leave that off the table.
No.
One of the funniest things, and it's I don't know, it sounds a little bit conceited when you think about it, but what he was saying was true. So he was this was one of my instructors. His name is Brian Milnarczyk. He was one of the guys who taught me, I should say. He was rolling with somebody, and this guy was just getting pissed. And finally, like, you know, it's a white belt, right? So the guy like pulls his mouthpiece out of his mouth and throws it. And he's like, "Fuck! I thought I was going to have you there. I thought I was going to have you." And Brian is just always like a chill dude. And he's like, he looks at him and goes, "Hey, you know what your problem is?" And he's like, "What?" And like, I'm watching, you know, cause like at the time I'm like a blue belt. So I'm looking for like some profound like move or something that he's going to say. And he goes, "Your problem is you think you could beat me." He goes, "You pay me because you can't beat me. I don't know why you're getting so upset about it."
It's perfect.
It is.
And it's like, you know, part of it's like, what a dick. And then the other part is like, well, you're kind of right, you know, like,
kind of right. Yeah.
The good thing for me was that's how I mentally approached it after being there super quick. It was, you shouldn't be here. You shouldn't be that good, or you're not. You're going to have to work. You're going to have to study. You're going to have to grind. You're going to have to pay attention. You're going to have to ask questions. And so I did that. I went in with that mindset, and, you know, I'll review stuff. I'll break film down for myself, or, you know, whatever. If we study something or Chad teaches something, you know, I'll look for it, that certain thing specifically, or I'll ask him or text him or whatever, you know. So for my mindset, it was a little bit different. I never went, and even when I roll now, I never go, yeah, I'm going to get the submission. If it's there, I may try it, or I go, yeah, it's there, but that was easy to get to. So I will try to push myself to somewhere else and try to do something different because I got to this position and I kind of get to this position all the time. So I will go, no, make yourself work harder to get here. So but that's me. That's not everybody. I do have a different, mentality when it comes to that kind of stuff. And I think that's what made me come back. Even, Chad would run line drills where a lot of people didn't show up, where we just came in and we did drills up and down by yourself, as hard as you could go or do what you can do. And I was there all the time. Like, I was like, no, I'm not walking away, man. Like, I don't care. I'm going to have to die here because this is what I'm doing. This is how it's going to be, just kept going, kept grinding. And
those are important too, right? Like that's like, the joke with, the purple belt skipping the warm-ups. It's like warm-ups, depending on where you go, but warm-ups generally aren't warm-ups in the traditional sense, right? It's not like push-ups and sit-ups. It's like hip escapes and crossover moves or high pummels and things like that. And it's like, these are mechanics that you're required to do to get good at jiu-jitsu.
Right.
They just happen to be also good at teaching you movement and warming up your body. But if you can't do those things without another human involved, right? Like, you can't just move yourself, say, through a back roll. I always like to teach a back roll. I lay flat on my back, pull my knees to my chest, look, spot my landing, put my feet behind me, and slowly roll over. And it's like, if I can't do that, then how safe is it going to be then when I want to balloon sweep somebody and I have them elevated above me, and then I need to do the same mechanic now with a human on me?
On top, yeah.
Even moreover, when they're trying to stop it, right? Like, so you've got this uncontested movement, and then you've got semi-contested in that it's got the element of another human involved. And then you've got fully contested when they're trying to stop it. Like, if I can't do it without all of that going on, probably not going to be able to pull it off with it going on.
100%. You're right.
Or I'm going to have to throw momentum into it or something like that. Now it's uncontrolled. And that's when you get hurt.
Yep, absolutely.
Yep, 100%. Awesome. Great stuff, dude. Very cool. Tell everyone where they can get at you on social, anything.
I'm just Bill Jones on most of my social media. I'm on Instagram. I think it's Top Level Jiu-Jitsu on Instagram. And then just toplevelmartialarts.com is my website. Hit me up, whatever. Just talk
everybody.
To me.
Yeah. Anybody and everybody out there in the Cuyahoga Falls area, man, check out Top Level.
Yeah.
Get out there.
Top Level, where it's beautiful downtown Cuyahoga Falls is how I always like to say it. So.
Awesome, man. Cool. Thanks so much for hanging out with us, Bill. Chilling.
I appreciate being on.
Talking about, yeah.
Had a blast.
Great time.
Awesome.
Chad, anything, man?
No, we'll do it, Bill. We'll get together this year sometime and do some training.
Right. Yeah, hit me up offline. Let's make it happen.
Yep, for sure.
I'll hold him to it. Don't worry.
Hold me to it too. We always talk about it, and then it just never happens.
Yep.
I'll message you, and you'll be like, "Who the heck is this guy?" I'll be like, "I'm a student of Chad Kuhn, and we want to open mat. Let's do it." No, I'm just kidding. That would be great to do a crossover training, though. Crossover teaching training. That would be cool.
A lot of fun. Yeah, and it's not hard for me to just say, hey, this night we're going to go down to wherever, or they're going to come up here, or, whatever.
Yeah.
People will come,
Cool.
So
that works.
Knowledge is power for life. All right, brother. Cool. Take it easy. Thanks. Appreciate you.
Thanks, Bill.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Thank you, man. Take it easy.